Today, we're diving into a text that makes one of the most incredible claims you can imagine, that history, in all its messy detail, can actually be written down centuries before it happens. We are talking about Daniel chapter 11, so let's jump right in and see what the evidence says.
I mean, really, think about that question. Is the future just a total mystery? Or could the specific twists and turns, the rise and fall of whole empires, the betrayals between kings, even the outcomes of major battles, could all of that be known for sure ahead of time? Now, for a lot of people, the answer's obvious. No way. They argue Daniel 11 must have been written after the events happened, because the accuracy is just, well, it's spooky. But what if it wasn't? In this breakdown, we're not going to get into theories or symbolism. We're just going to do something really simple. Put the ancient text right next to the history books and see how they line up. Okay, so what's really fascinating is how this whole chapter kicks off. The text just gets straight to the point. Unlike other parts of the book of Daniel, this isn't some symbolic vision with weird beasts or giant statues. An angel literally shows up and says, "I will tell you the truth." It's presenting itself as straight-up, chronological, geopolitical history, told in advance. So the prophecy starts right where Daniel was, in the Persian Empire. It predicts a fourth king, who we now know was Xerxes I, and says he'd use his massive fortune to attack Greece. And that huge, failed invasion is exactly what provoked a counterattack from the west, led by a mighty king. Yep, we're talking about Alexander the Great, who completely shattered the Persian Empire. But then, just as quickly, the text says his kingdom will be broken and split 4 ways. And sure enough, when Alexander died suddenly in 323 BC, that is exactly what happened. And this is where it gets really interesting. The prophecy zooms in. It basically ignores 2 of those 4 new kingdoms and puts a laser focus on 2 fierce rivals. The king of the north, which was the Seleucid dynasty up in Syria, and the king of the south, the Ptolemaic dynasty down in Egypt. So why just those 2? Well, because the land of Israel was sitting right in the middle, caught between them. It became a strategic highway and a battlefield, as these 2 superpowers duked it out for the next century and a half. And this right here shows you the insane level of detail we're dealing with. Verse 6 predicts a very specific political marriage, and history confirms it. Ptolemy II of Egypt gave his daughter, Berenice, to Antiochus II of the north to seal a treaty. But the prophecy goes on. It says she will not retain her position of power. She will be given up. And in a crazy turn of events, Antiochus's first wife, Laodice, talked him into taking her back. Then she poisoned him, had Berenice and her little boy murdered, and put her own son on the throne. It's like a complex, tragic, royal soap opera, and every beat was written down centuries earlier. But the story doesn't stop there. Berenice's brother, Ptolemy III, was absolutely furious. So he launches this massive invasion of the north to avenge his sister's murder. And when he comes back to Egypt, he brings with him an unbelievable amount of treasure. We're talking, among other things, 40,000 talents of silver. And get this, the text seems to pinpoint this exact event. It says he will take their precious vessels of silver and gold into captivity to Egypt. The match between what the historians tell us and what the prophecy says is, again, just incredibly precise. The prophecy just keeps rolling, with the next major player, Antiochus III, a guy who actually called himself the Great. The text basically gives us a highlight reel of his entire career in just a handful of verses. And look at this, the parallels are just stunning. The text says he'd overflow and pass through, and yep, history shows he swept south through Israel. It predicts his heart will be lifted up, but that he will not prevail, a perfect description of his early arrogance, and then his big defeat at the Battle of Raphia. It foretells his comeback and his control of the beautiful land, Israel, which he locked down after another battle. The text even says his plan to use his daughter in a marriage alliance would backfire. And wouldn't you know it, his daughter, Cleopatra I, stayed loyal to Egypt. And finally, it describes his end, defeated by the rising power of Rome and killed while trying to rob a temple. Every major event of his reign, it's all there. Then the text moves right along to his successor, Seleucus IV. The prophecy is short, but wow, is it specific. He's mainly known for one thing, sending a tax collector, a guy named Heliodorus, through Judea. And then it says he will be shattered, though not in anger nor in battle. Well, how did he die? History tells us he was poisoned, assassinated by that exact same tax collector, Heliodorus. It's right about here that the mood of the chapter gets a lot darker. The next king isn't just another ruler. The text calls him a despicable person. This is Antiochus IV, who gave himself the name Epiphanes, which means God manifest. Yeah. He wasn't even the real heir to the throne. He used flattery and backroom deals to get power, seizing the kingdom by intrigue. Exactly what the prophecy said he would do. This guy, Antiochus Epiphanes, launched a vicious persecution of the Jewish people. He tried to force Greek culture on everyone, he banned their religious laws, and then he marched into the temple in Jerusalem. He stopped the sacred daily sacrifices, he slaughtered a pig on the holy altar, and he set up a pagan idol. The prophecy calls this the abomination of desolation. It was the ultimate act of blasphemy. But the prophecy also saw the reaction coming. It says that in the face of all this horror, the people who know their God will display strength and take action. And that's exactly what happened. This was the spark that lit the fuse of the Maccabean revolt, led by a family of priests who just refused to give in. Their victory against all odds and the rededication of the temple is a massive moment in history, one that's still celebrated today as Hanukkah. So right here, the prophecy does something fascinating. After laying out the life of Antiochus Epiphanes with such chilling accuracy, the language suddenly shifts. It starts talking about a future king who will do whatever he wants and will exalt himself above every god. And this is where a lot of scholars say the historical Antiochus is being presented as a type. Think of it like a blueprint or maybe a dress rehearsal. He is a real historical pattern that foreshadows a final future ruler who will show up in what the text calls the end time. And that really brings us to the final unavoidable question, doesn't it? We've just gone through a line-by-line prediction of 150 years of incredibly complicated history. The people, the places, the politics, the betrayals, it all just lines up perfectly. So if history has confirmed the first part of this prophecy with such stunning accuracy, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for the part that hasn't happened yet? And that is a question worth thinking about.